I dropped my fork. It clanged against the plate scrambled eggs untouched. The chain was always there just below my collarbone. Light, worn smooth with time. Now gone. I reached up, fingers brushing skin. Empty. Where's the necklace, I asked. Derek didn't even glance up from his phone. Oh. That I sold it. I stared at him. He looked up, shrugged. What I needed, the cash for our trip. Cancun's not cheap. I kept staring. My hands had gone cold. He chuckled and turned to Shayla. She looks like I kicked her cat. Shayla smirked. Babe, it was just sitting there. She never even wore it out. Seriously, it was gathering dust. My chest tightened. That necklace belonged to my mother. Yeah, and now it paid for my resort suite, Derek said. You're welcome. He stabbed a piece of toast like it owed him money. Shayla sipped her smoothie. Honestly, you should have thanked us. We're finally getting you some space in this house. I sat back in my chair. They went on talking about flights, swim-up bars, excursions, laughing, planning. Derek scrolled through hotel photos, while Shayla messaged someone about the bridal white swimsuit. I poured another cup of coffee. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't ask if I wanted coffee. They didn't even notice I wasn't eating. When breakfast ended, Derek clapped my shoulder like I was an old coworker. We'll be gone a week. Shouldn't be too hard for you to keep the place running. Keep the yard decent. Oh, and make sure the mail's sorted. He tossed his plate in the sink. Left it there. Shayla followed, heels clicking across the tile. I'm ordering a new outdoor set while we're away, she said. The patio's too outdated. We'll need to clear your stuff out. She meant my chair, my little corner, where I drank my morning coffee before the house woke up. I nodded. Just once. They didn't see it. Later, when they'd gone upstairs to pack, I walked into the living room. Quiet. Cool. I stood in front of the mantel where the photo of my mother still sat, smiling in black and white. She wore that necklace on the day it was taken. Thin gold chain. Oval locket. She'd told me when I was 11 it's not worth much in money. But it holds everything that mattered to me. I had worn it nearly every day for 30 years. Never opened it. Never even tried. I didn't want what was inside. I wanted the weight of her near me. And now it was gone. I pressed my palm against my chest. No chain. No locket. No weight. Just air. I turned, walked down the hall, and opened the small drawer in the laundry room. I pulled out the pawnshop receipt I'd found in the trash, tucked beneath a takeout bag. He hadn't even bothered to hide it. I read the line again, 14K gold necklace, W2 pendant, $180. Cash. The name of the shop. The date. The signature. Derek's handwriting, careless and thick. I picked up the phone, dialed the number, let it ring. A man answered. Older voice. This is Murray's on Maple. My name is Inez Calloway. I believe a necklace was sold to you. Gold, locket. Long pause. Then, yes, ma'am. That came in 2 days ago. Sold by a Derek Calloway. My throat tightened. Do you still have it? I do. But, ma'am, when we cleaned it up for the case, well, the locket opened. There was something inside. I gripped the receiver tighter. Inside, he hesitated. A letter. Folded small, and a key. Silence. Then he said gentler, you may want to come in. I hung up, walked to the coat rack, reached for my bag. The car keys were still where I left them. I filled the kettle, lit the stove, waited for the water to boil. Their laughter spilled from upstairs. Shayla, packing, Derek barking at the airline app. I opened the cabinet, took down my mug, white ceramic, faded chip on the handle. The one thing they hadn't replaced. The water whistled. I poured, stirred in grounds. No cream, no sugar, just bitter heat. I sat at the kitchen table. The same chair, the same spot. My back to the window, my hands curled around the mug like armor. They passed me twice. No eye contact, no questions. Only Shayla's voice, bright, fake, distant. We're going to look so good on that beach. Derek. If we ever get out of this dump. I sipped, didn't flinch. They paused long enough to eat lunch. Derek wolfed down a sandwich. Left the plate for me. Mom, can you wash this later? I nodded. He didn't wait for the answer. Neither did she. They moved like I was furniture. When I left the room, I moved slower, intentionally. Quiet feet, careful steps, no sound, no presence. That night they watched a movie, some action flick loud and stupid. I stayed in my room, waited for the credits. Once the house fell silent, I walked to the closet, pulled down the photo album, not digital, not glossy, just matte pages and clear sleeves. The old kind. I sat on the floor, crossed my legs, turned the pages one by one. There she was, my mother, in her garden, in the kitchen, on the porch, arms crossed, laughing. In every photo, the same necklace. It had touched her skin more years than I'd been alive. I ran my thumb across the image, paused over her smile. I remembered the weight of her hands when I cried after school. I remembered how she folded bills into my coat pocket the year I couldn't make rent. I remembered what it felt like to matter. And now her necklace sat behind a glass counter like junk, because her grandson needed to look important. I closed the album, slid it back onto the shelf, turned off the light, lay in bed. I stared at the ceiling. Didn't cry, didn't move, didn't sleep. In the morning, I set out 3 cups, made eggs, toast, coffee. They were late. Shayla appeared first, scrolling through her phone. Don't forget to water the succulents while we're gone. And please don't overwater them this time. They're not cabbage. Derek followed suitcase already by the door. You got the mail key? Good. Keep an eye out for our Amazon packages. They sat, ate, talked about layovers and cocktails and sunscreen. I poured their coffee, then poured mine, sat, sipped, didn't say a word. They didn't notice. After breakfast, they grabbed their things and left. No hug, no goodbye, just the sound of tires on gravel. I stood at the sink, rinsed the plates, dried them, put them away. Then I changed clothes, picked up my bag. I left a note on the counter. Out for errands. Back later. Mom. I locked the door behind me, got in the car, turned the key, and headed to Maple Street. I scrubbed the wine glass until the rim squeaked. The dinner wasn't my idea. Shayla sent out invites from our address. Derek told me the day before. Just some close friends. You don't need to do much, just make sure things stay clean. I nodded. That's all I did lately. By 5, the house was staged, candles lit, furniture rearranged. My chair moved to the garage. Shayla clicked through the kitchen in heels too high for hardwood. Can you stay back here during appetizers? She said, waving her hand. Easier for cleanup. I was already in the kitchen. Where else would I be? The guests arrived in clumps. Laughter, perfume, expensive coats. Shayla greeted them like royalty. Derek stood beside her, arm around her waist, like a politician at a fundraiser. I poured wine, refilled platters, took empty dishes, wiped surfaces, reset trays. Not one person asked where I was. Not one asked how I was. I opened the pantry door, stood inside for a moment, breathed. When I came back out, I caught Shayla's voice floating in from the dining room. We need to start figuring out that will. She can't live forever. Someone chuckled. Derek replied, honestly, I think she already drafted something years ago. Probably left everything to a cat. Laughter again. Shayla, we should just ask her. Or better, get her to update it while she still remembers her name. That got a bigger laugh. I stood by the kitchen door holding a plate of crackers, not moving, not breathing. I walked out with the tray, set it on the buffet, smiled at a guest who didn't look up, went back to the sink. My chest felt like glass. Not broken, just tight. Like one more word might shatter it. Later, as they cleared out, Shayla kissed cheeks and handed out leftover cake in boxes I had packed. I was invisible again. After the last guest left, Derek tossed his jacket onto the couch and said, "Mom, tomorrow, can you steam clean the rug in the foyer? One of Shayla's friends tracked something in." I nodded. My mouth didn't move, but I nodded. Upstairs, the shower ran. Doors shut. I made tea, no coffee. I was too tired for something soft. I needed something that bit back. I sat at the table alone. The dishes were done. The floor was clean. The rug was already drying. I took one sip, then another. I opened my drawer, the one they didn't check. Pulled out the receipt again. The name of the pawn shop. The necklace. The proof. I stared at it. Then I tucked it into my wallet. The sound of Derek's voice echoed from upstairs. He was on the phone, laughing, talking about golf next weekend. I stood, walked down the hall, stopped at the closet, opened the door, pulled down the photo album again, and with that same quiet grip, I turned the first page. I paid for the groceries. Again, the card machine beeped. 142.57. Derek had sent a list that morning. Organic greens, almond milk, some frozen protein packs with names I couldn't pronounce. No one asked if I needed anything. When I got home, the bags were still in the trunk. I carried them in myself. My back hurt from the bend. No one noticed. Shayla was in the laundry room. "Don't mix my delicates this time," she said, without turning around. I didn't answer. I just took the other load, Derek's gym clothes, and fed it to the washer. The next day, a manila envelope showed up on the counter. No note, just a bright yellow tab. Refinance. Signature needed. I flipped it open. It was for my house. The deed still had my name on it, but the refinance terms didn't. I would be co-signing a new mortgage to consolidate family finances, the paperwork said. There was a sticky note inside. Derek's handwriting. Just sign. Shayla's credit is better. We'll explain later. Later never came. Instead, Shayla started packing up my belongings. First, the coat rack by the door. Doesn't fit the aesthetic, she said. Then the side table near my chair. We're ordering a new set. Then the bookshelf in the hallway. These can go in storage. Nobody reads these. She moved them without asking. Labeled boxes stacked in the garage. On Wednesday, I found my mug in the dishwasher bin with a sticky note. Too chipped. Toss, I took it back out. Washed it by hand. Dried it slowly. Then I made coffee. The mug still fit my hand perfectly. Same chipped corner. Same stain on the rim from years of early mornings. I drank on the back porch. Alone. No chair. Just the steps. That night, I opened the refinance documents again. Read every word. I didn't sign them. The next morning, Derek frowned. "Did you see the envelope?" I nodded. "Saw it." "Great," he said. "We'll submit by Friday." I said nothing. He didn't notice the difference. After lunch, Shayla handed me a list of pantry items. "We're out of the good stuff. Mind grabbing these today?" She tapped her fingernail against the page, then walked off. I stared at it. Almond flour, goat cheese, imported crackers, sparkling water. Things my mother never bought. Things I never cared for. I folded the paper in half, put it in my pocket, drove to the store, but I didn't buy any of it. Instead, I drove 3 miles past the grocery store, parked in front of a small brick building with bars on the window. Murray's Pawn and Loan. I opened the door. The bell above it jingled. The man behind the counter looked up. "You must be Mrs. Calloway," he said. I nodded. He reached under the glass, set the necklace on the velvet pad, then placed a folded letter beside it, and a small tarnished key. I picked up the necklace with both hands. The chain looked thinner than I remembered, like time itself had worn it down. The locket felt heavier. Different. Murray watched me quietly. Take your time, he said. I nodded, but my throat felt tight. I traced the engraved edge with my thumb, the little swirl my mother used to polish with her sleeve every Sunday before church. It felt wrong seeing it under fluorescent lights instead of sunlight. You said it opened, I finally managed. He sighed. I've worked here 33 years. I've seen thousands of lockets. This one, well, I wasn't expecting what was inside. I waited. He reached under the counter and produced a small cloth pouch. Inside were 2 items, a folded note yellowed by age and a tiny brass key no longer than my pinky. Your son didn't know it opened, he said. Most folks wouldn't. Hidden catch. It took me a good minute to find it. I ran my finger over the fold lines. The paper was soft-handled many times before being tucked away. Did you read it? I asked. He shook his head. Only enough to know it wasn't meant for anyone but you. I breathed in slowly. The shop smelled of dust metal and old wood, nothing like my mother's kitchen, where she wore the necklace every morning as she brewed coffee, humming under her breath. I swallowed. I need to sit, I said. He pulled a chair from behind the counter. I lowered myself onto it, holding the note like it might crumble. It's her handwriting, he said quietly. Looped letters real neat. You don't see that kind of penmanship anymore. My hand trembled. I closed my eyes, picturing my mother's fingers guiding mine when I was a little girl teaching me cursive on lined paper. Slow. Careful. Don't rush your letters. I unfolded the note a single crease at a time. The paper crackled. The ink was still strong, the strokes familiar. My mother's voice came back to me before I even read a word. Inez, if you're reading this. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, forcing myself onward. It means something has changed, and you need to know the truth. Truth. The words sat on the page like a weight. You've spent your life thinking small, because people around you told you to. But there are things I couldn't say while I was alive. Things I needed to protect. For you. My breath hitched. Murray pretended to organize a drawer, giving me privacy. The shop was quiet, except for the hum of the heater. This key belongs to a box at Evergreen Credit Union. Box 144. I left something there for you. Something only you should open. And if you are standing in this moment now, I trust you know why. I folded the letter again. My chest burned. I didn't know why. Not yet. But I knew one thing, whatever was inside that box. Whatever she'd been afraid to say, it wasn't small. It wasn't trivial. She'd carried the secret for decades, long enough to hide it inside a locket no one ever thought to open. I closed my hand around the key. My mother had always been quiet, gentle, the kind of woman people overlooked. But she'd also been wise and deliberate. She hadn't hidden this from me. She'd hidden it for me. Murray cleared his throat. If you want the necklace back, you don't have to pay, he said. Your son told me it belonged to his girlfriend. I knew that wasn't right. I stood. Thank you. He packed the necklace, the letter, and the key into the pouch. I tucked it into my bag close to my body. As I walked out, the cold air hit my face. I tightened my coat and headed for the car, the key pressing into my palm with every step. I turned the engine on, backed out of the parking lot, and pointed the car toward Evergreen Credit Union. I pushed through the glass doors of Evergreen Credit Union before I could change my mind. The bell above the entrance chimed sharp and bright. I walked straight to the counter and placed the small brass key on the surface. The teller looked up. Young, polite. How can I help you today? I need access to a deposit box, I said. Box 144. She checked her screen. One moment. Then her eyebrows lifted. This box is quite old. Last activity was nearly 20 years ago. Do you have identification? I handed it over. She inspected it, nodded, and asked me to sign a form. My hand didn't shake this time. Something steadier had started replacing the fear, something I wasn't ready to name yet. A guard escorted me through a side door and down a hallway that smelled faintly of metal and cold paper. I followed him into a small vault room lined with numbered drawers. He pointed. Box 144. Insert your key when you're ready. I'll step out. The door clicked behind him. I stood alone. I reached for the box, inserted the key, turned. The lock gave with a heavy, reluctant sound, like secrets resisting daylight. The drawer slid out, metal against metal. I pulled it fully and set it on the table in the private room just outside the vault. One envelope. Thick. Sealed. My name written across the front in handwriting I would recognize anywhere. I sat. I placed both hands on the envelope, palms flat, like steadying myself against a wind. Then I opened it. Inside were 2 letters and a thin folder. The first letter was dated 15 years ago. Inez, if you're reading this, they've already started forgetting who you are. I felt something twist in my stomach. My mother had always spoken plainly, but this was sharper, almost prophetic. You give too much. You stay quiet too long. I raised you to be kind, not invisible. My throat tightened. People who forget what you're worth will take everything if you let them. I wasn't strong enough to teach you how to stop them, but I can leave you something that helps you stand when they try. I stopped there, pressed my fingers to my forehead, breathed. The second letter was shorter, more urgent. The key is for box 144. Inside the folder, you'll find documents. Don't speak of them until you understand what they mean. There are people who would push you out of your own home if they knew what you have. Keep silent until you choose otherwise. I slid the folder out. It wasn't thick, but it had weight. Official weight. I opened it. Property records, bonds. Names I didn't recognize except one, my mother's maiden name, Calloway. Behind the last page was a small card handwritten. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. Choose when to speak. Choose who hears you. Choose yourself. I closed the folder, sat back, let the room settle around me. The guard knocked softly. Everything all right, ma'am? Yes, I said. I'm finished. He led me out, locking the door behind us. The teller smiled as I passed. I nodded, gripping my bag tighter. Outside, the sky was overcast, low and gray, but the air felt clearer somehow. I reached my car, slid into the driver's seat, and placed the folder gently beside me. It lay there, quiet, patient, like it had been waiting for this moment longer than I realized. I started the engine, and I headed home with my mother's voice still echoing in my hands. I walked into Bell and Mercer Legal Services just after noon. No appointment, no hesitation. The front office was empty, except for a quiet receptionist who looked barely 20. Can I help you? I'm here to see Mr. Mercer. Tell him Inez Calloway's daughter is here. She blinked, then stood. 1 moment, ma'am. 3 minutes later, the door opened, and Harold Mercer stepped out. He looked older, white hair, stiff back, but his eyes were sharp. Inez's girl, he said. Took you long enough. We shook hands. His grip was steady dry. I followed him into his office. No clutter, no pretense. Just leather chairs, oak desk, and framed pictures of townsfolk long dead. I didn't sit right away. I pulled the folder from my bag and placed it on the desk between us. I need you to walk me through this, I said. Quietly, he opened the flap, pulled the papers out one at a time. As he read, his brow furrowed. 10 minutes passed in silence. Then he looked up. They don't know what they've triggered, he said. He tapped the page in front of him. This is a controlling interest package. Real estate group out of Ashford, originally founded by your grandfather. That land got bought, split, and developed. These shares, your mother held onto them. Quietly. He picked up another paper. These bearer bonds. They're legit. And old? No trail. No taxes drawn yet. You're looking at a 7-figure reserve. My mouth stayed closed. I didn't blink. He leaned back. She planned this. I nodded. He handed me a thin notepad. Start writing down what's in your name. All of it. Title, deed, inheritance, any account you still control. I wrote, slowly, clearly. When I was done, he scanned the list. First thing, we seal this. Legally. Power of attorney revocable trust, whatever keeps your signature, the only one that matters. Second, he said we don't speak of this. Not to them. Not to anyone. You let them believe what they want. I looked him in the eye. I don't want to punish them. I just want the house. My peace. He smiled, dry flat. Peace comes after the storm. Not before. He drafted the first 2 documents while I waited. I signed. He notarized everything on the spot. Then he looked me over. You're not the same woman your mother raised. You're something sharper. I stood. He walked me to the front door. If they start asking questions, call me first. I stepped outside. The wind had picked up. The clouds moved low and heavy over the town square. I didn't go straight home. I drove to the cafe near the old post office. Not the trendy one Shayla liked. The quiet one. Real coffee. Sturdy mugs. No names on the cups. I sat in the back. Ordered black. No cream, no noise. Then I pulled out a legal pad. Drew 2 columns. What they think I don't know on the left. What I actually know on the right. I listed the refinance form. The whispered conversations. The storage boxes. The mug. The party. I listed the deeds. The bonds. The trust. The lawyer. And then I started a 3rd column, what comes next. When I got home, the lights were off. Derek's car was gone. Shayla's sandals were by the door. I set my bag on the table, poured water in the kettle, lit the stove, and I started making a new folder. I walked into the living room and saw the red light blinking, small, tucked in the corner near the ceiling. One of those sleek little cameras Shayla liked to buy after watching late-night crime documentaries. There's another in the hallway, she said, not looking up from her phone. Just for safety. I stared at her. For who, I asked. She smiled. We're all under the same roof, right? It's normal these days. Everyone does it. I didn't argue. Arguing only fed her. The next day, the doorknob to my room changed. Derek had replaced it while I was out. It's one of those digital locks, he said casually. Can't have the kids accidentally wandering in if we ever host. They didn't have kids. They never would. Don't worry, he added, handing me a fob. You're still on the system. Still. As if I should feel grateful. I took the fob, said nothing. That had become my skill, saying nothing and storing everything. That night over dinner, they brought it up. We're thinking Mexico, Shayla said, slicing into her avocado. 2 weeks, all inclusive. There's a place with a rooftop infinity pool. Derek nodded. Flights are cheap if we book early. Just need a little upfront help. I kept chewing. He looked straight at me. You've lived your life. Let us live ours now. I put my fork down. I'm not stopping you. You're not helping either. Shayla said, her voice flat. We're not asking for everything. Just support. Support. That's what they called it. The utilities I paid. The food I stocked. The mortgage they tried to put in my name. Support. I stood up, carried my plate to the sink, and washed it slowly. Behind me, their voices dropped, then rose again, murmured plans, complaints. Derek mentioned tapping the emergency savings just in case. I walked to my room, my half room now with a lock I didn't choose, and shut the door. The red light blinked in the hallway. I sat at my desk, opened the drawer, took out the folder. Inside, copies of the property deed, the trust, the bond statements, the letter from Mercer. I'd added a photo of my mother in the garden wearing the necklace, the old kind of photo Polaroid, worn corners soft. I placed the photo on top of the stack, let it stare back at me. I pulled out my small safe, changed the combination, wrote it on a card, then burned the card. If they wanted to lock me out, they'd learn what it meant when the door locked both ways. The next morning, Shayla asked where the checkbook was. Which checkbook, I asked. Her eyes narrowed. The one for the household account. I shrugged. I haven't seen it. She turned away, muttering. That afternoon, Derek sent me a link to the resort. Just take a look, he said. You might even like it. They have activities for seniors. I didn't reply. Instead, I logged into the account they didn't know about, the one my mother opened when I turned 18. She deposited $50 every birthday. I never touched it. It had grown. Not much, but enough. Enough to make the next move without them noticing. Enough to shift the balance quietly. I logged out. Cleared the browser. Then I poured a cup of coffee, carried it to the back porch, and sat facing the horizon. There was a key in my pocket, a folder in my room, a lock on my door, and silence in my mouth. They'd shut their doors. I was opening mine. I printed the documents one by one. Each page fed through the old inkjet printer I kept in my closet, something Derek thought was junk. It had outlived 2 of his sleek wireless ones, the kind that looked modern but failed at anything hard. I sat at the desk signing each page in black ink. Legal name, date, clean strokes, the trust transfer, the controlling interest certification, the power of attorney, the updated deed instructions. I'd gone over them with Mr. Mercer 3 times. Every line, every clause, every possible loophole Shayla might try to crawl through. I signed my name and pressed it flat. Then I pulled the red folder from the bottom drawer, the one with the scuffed corner and the faint smell of cedar. My mother used to keep birth certificates in it. Now it held something heavier. I slipped the documents inside, smoothed them out, clipped a note to the front. If anything happens to me, this speaks for me. I lifted the rug in my closet, moved aside the old laundry basket no one ever touched, pried up the floorboard with the dull butter knife I kept taped behind the dresser, underneath a space the size of a shoebox. Dry. Safe. I placed the red folder down gently, replaced the board, smoothed the rug, closed the closet door. Next, I walked to the post office. No car, no ride. I walked. At the counter, I handed the envelope to the clerk. Certified. Signature required. He stamped it, slid it into the outgoing tray, and asked if I wanted a receipt. I do. I tucked it into my wallet. That evening, the house was louder than usual. Derek had the game on. Shayla was laughing at something on speakerphone. I heard her say, "When the house is in our name," and then her voice dropped to a murmur. I stood at the stove stirring a pot of soup. My hands moved on instinct. Onion, garlic, chicken, salt. I didn't taste it. I served their bowls, carried my own to the porch. No one noticed. Outside, the sky was pink. The light dimmed across the lawn. I ate slowly, each bite warm, quiet. I finished, rinsed my bowl, and dried it. In my room, I took out the small safe again. This time, I added the flash drive copies of the same documents just in case. Tucked it beside the deed to the house, the bond summaries, and my mother's letters. I sat on the bed, folded my hands, and I waited. Waited for the next ask, the next command, the next slip. It always came. Greed never sat still. But this time, I wasn't flinching. This time, I was watching, recording, filing. Shayla passed my door that night without knocking. She didn't look in, didn't speak. She didn't have to. I could feel the shift, the way silence makes people nervous when they're used to your obedience. I turned off the light, pulled the covers up, listened to the sounds of their laughter down the hall. They thought I was small. They thought I was tired. They thought silence meant surrender. But silence, I've learned, is where power gathers. I opened the second envelope from the deposit box. Same handwriting, same weight, but the seal was thicker, wax pressed with a stamp I didn't recognize. Inside, just one page. Typed, not signed. The necklace was only meant to keep them looking in the wrong direction. The real gift is in the company files. Callaway Timber Holdings. You are majority shareholder by trust inheritance. You hold voting control. Do not activate it until you're ready. They'll come running once they find out what sits beneath their feet. I sat still. Callaway. That name again. I opened my laptop. Searched it. And there it was, bigger than I'd thought. Real estate. Logging contracts. Land management in 3 states. I clicked through corporate listings. Board of Directors. CEO Winston Hale. Chair rotates every fiscal year. Shareholders private, not public. Then I clicked deeper. Buried on a third-party database, my name, Inez Callaway Eastman. Controlling interest, 51%. Locked in a trust. Transferable only by death or legal declaration of incapacity. I sat back. Let it land. All this time I thought the necklace was the anchor. Something sentimental, irreplaceable, wrapped in grief and memory. But it was bait. My mother didn't leave her legacy around her neck. She hid it in corporate filings, in a company her daughter never knew she owned. I printed the confirmation, folded it, placed it into the red folder beneath the floorboard, under everything else. The mug was no longer just a mug. The silence was no longer just survival. Derek knocked on my door that night. I didn't answer. He came in anyway. You got a minute? I looked up. He sat on the edge of the bed like he used to when he was a boy and needed something. I think we need to figure out the house. I waited. I mean, it's not really practical for you to hold the deed on your own anymore. Shayla and I, if something happens to you, we'd be left scrambling. I nodded slowly. You're not young, Mom. You need to think about transition. Estate stuff. It's responsible. He leaned forward. We found a notary. He could come here. 1 signature and it's done. You'd still live here, of course. We'd make sure of that. I smiled. Let me think about it, I said. He patted my hand. Like I was fading. Like I should be grateful. After he left, I walked to the kitchen. The trash hadn't been taken out. The groceries I paid for were still in bags. A note on the fridge in Shayla's handwriting. Don't forget the deposit for the Mexico trip. They still thought I had nothing. They thought I was riding on their scraps. I sat down at the table, pulled out the notary form he'd slipped into my folder. Blank. Waiting. I turned it over and wrote 1 word across the back, no. Then I burned it in the sink. The smoke rose slowly. The flame didn't rush. It took its time curling around the edges, hollowing out the center, until the word disappeared. I watched until only ash remained. Then I opened the drawer beside the fridge, took out a pen, and began writing something new. Not a will, not a surrender, just a list. People, places, dates, and a number, the boardroom address of Callaway Timber Holdings. I picked up the phone and called Mercer. No greeting, no pleasantries. It's time, I said. He didn't ask for details. Tuesday, he replied. Be here at 9. Wear something they won't expect. I hung up and started printing. Letterhead first, then names. 7 board members, 3 alternates, 2 seats open. My mother had held 1 until the year before she passed. I drafted the notification of intent to vote, attached the certificate of trust, scanned my ID, signed the proxy forms. Mercer had walked me through it already. All I had to do was say the word. The word was now. I mailed the letters, certified. Each one sealed with a copy of the trust declaration, my shareholder certificate, and the formal call for meeting under Clause 8B. Right to convene by controlling vote holder. They'd see my name in ink before they ever heard my voice. Then I drove into town. Not to the post office this time, but to the old print shop near the courthouse. Just 1 folder, I told the clerk. Green, leather-bound, gold foil lettering, name across the front. She raised a brow. Special occasion. Something like that? It took an hour. I waited in the car, watched the traffic, sipped coffee from a paper cup. When she handed it to me, I ran my fingers across the lettering. Inez C. Eastman. I placed every document inside. No loose pages. No copies this time. Originals only. The red folder, creased, tired, cluttered, went into the fire that night. I stood at the sink and fed it sheet by sheet into the flame. Watched the corners blacken. Watched the ashes fall. This wasn't hiding anymore. This was declaring. Derek and Shayla didn't notice. They were busy packing. I heard them arguing about luggage, something about overcharges and suitcase dimensions. I didn't ask. When I passed the hallway, Derek turned. Still good for the check by Friday, I nodded. You'll have something by then. He smiled like we were finally on the same side. In my room, I took the green folder and set it on the dresser. I pulled out the outfit I hadn't worn since the funeral, black pants, pressed jacket, heels that still fit. I hung them on the door. Let them breathe. Then I opened the desk drawer, took out the photo of my mother, and slipped it into the folder's front pocket. She wouldn't be there Tuesday, but her name would. Her legacy would. And so would mine. Shayla slammed the folder on the table. Thick papers, tabs, highlighter marks, the kind of printout people wave when they want to look in control. We spoke to a lawyer, she said, folding her arms. It's all clean. Simple transfer. Just sign here, and the house is finally ours. I looked at the page. Bold font. My name already typed in. The notary spot left blank, waiting. Derek leaned against the counter, arms crossed. We'd cover the costs, of course. We just need your approval. That way we can refinance, expand, maybe start fresh. Shayla stepped closer. If you really love your family, she said, you'll do this. I said nothing. She softened her voice. I mean, you'll still live here. Nothing changes. It's just more official. They always dress theft in polite words. I pulled out a chair, sat, picked up the contract and pretended to read. I didn't know you two were struggling, I said. We're not Derek cut in. We just want options. Freedom to grow. Security, Shayla added. You know how hard it is for our generation. I nodded slowly. You'll be comfortable either way, she pressed. But this it means we'll be too. I placed the folder back down. My hands didn't shake. Let me think on it, I said. Derek exhaled. Good. Great. Shayla smiled like she'd sealed something. I stood, walked past them, and poured myself a cup of coffee. From the mug they tried to toss in the donation bin. They stayed in the kitchen whispering, giddy, plotting. I sipped, silent. That night, I heard them on the phone, probably with the mortgage broker. Shayla was already discussing upgrades, renovations, quotes. She said open floor plan and modern fixtures, and we can clear her things out during the trip. They thought it was done, signed in spirit, if not in ink. I packed the green folder into my bag, double-checked my outfit, set 2 alarms. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the blank signature line on their form. I didn't cross it out. I didn't tear it up. I just left it unsigned. Let them believe what they wanted. People get sloppy when they think they've already won. I turned off the light and waited for morning. I signed the paper. Not theirs. Mine. A final amendment. Mercer had slipped it into the folder that morning after the meeting. Quiet, binding, irrevocable. It closed the loop on every thread they didn't even know existed. I folded it, slid it into the green folder, locked the clasp. Then I walked back into the kitchen and smiled. Shayla was on the phone again. Yes, beachfront. Just for the 2 of us. She'll be fine here. We'll set up a delivery service or something. She saw me and covered the receiver. We're finalizing the booking. Mexico's gonna be beautiful this time of year. I nodded. Sounds lovely. She blinked. I was thinking, I said, maybe I should cook for the send-off. Something nice. Just us. One last dinner before you go. Her eyes lit up. Really? I shrugged. Feels right. Family should send each other off with love. Derek appeared behind her, raised an eyebrow. You sure? Of course, I said. I'll make the roast you like. And that peach cobbler. He grinned. Haven't had that in years. You'll have it tomorrow. Shayla tilted her head. That's more like it. Knew you'd see reason. I smiled again. Compliant. Easy. Harmless. I turned and started writing the grocery list. Chicken stock, peaches, heavy cream. Just enough to keep them focused on flavor instead of facts. That night, I stayed up late cleaning the kitchen, polished every surface, sharpened the knives, laid out the good dishes, ones they never touched. They were already celebrating in their heads. I could feel it in their footsteps, their voices, the sudden ease in their tone. They thought they'd broken me. They thought surrender tasted like roast and cobbler. They didn't notice the green folder missing from my drawer, didn't ask where I'd gone that morning, didn't question why the lawyer hadn't returned their calls. I packed the meat in the fridge, checked the oven's timer, refilled the salt jar. Everything was in place, and no one saw it coming. They set up 2 tables, one in the dining room, one near the laundry nook. I walked in with the roast, the cobbler, the wine, and they barely looked up. Shayla waved me toward the corner like I was part of the furniture. Overflow tables there, Inez, she said, adjusting the centerpiece. I nodded and placed the roast down in the center of the main table. She moved it seconds later closer to her seat. The grandchildren ran past me, didn't stop, didn't speak. Their phones were louder than their manners. I poured myself a small glass of wine, sat on the wooden chair tucked next to the washer. It creaked under me. I watched them serve themselves first. Derek stacked his plate. Shayla skipped the roast entirely, eyeing her salad like it was a trophy. Then I heard him, in the kitchen just around the corner. She finally accepted her place, he said. Took her long enough. The man I raised, the boy I carried through fevers, bullies, debt, and college tuition. He laughed again. Shayla joined in. Honestly, I thought she'd be more dramatic, she said. But I guess even pride breaks when it gets old. They clinked glasses. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just took another sip of wine and let the burn remind me I was still here. They called me in for the toast, not to thank me, just to perform. Shayla stood. To moving forward, she said, glass raised high. To new chapters, warmer climates, and leaving the past where it belongs. Everyone cheered. I nodded, like I agreed. They passed around dessert without offering it to me first. I didn't reach for it. Instead, I looked at the empty plate in front of me. The crumbs. The scrape of fork against porcelain. The evidence that I had given and been emptied. Their laughter filled the room. Not cruel, just careless. And somehow that hurt worse. I stood slowly, cleared my plate, carried it to the sink, turned the water on, let it run, let the sound drown out the rest of their voices. Tomorrow, the silence would be mine. I stood before dessert. The room didn't notice at first. Forks still clinked, wine still poured. Someone laughed at something on their phone. Then I set the green folder on the table. Firm, centered, silence followed. Shayla froze with a spoon halfway to her mouth. Derek frowned. The grandchildren looked up confused. I have something to share, I said. No one stopped me. They didn't know what was coming. I opened the folder, removed the first page. My name, I began, is Inez Calloway Eastman. I hold controlling interest in Calloway Timber Holdings. As of this month, I have reclaimed full voting power. The board has accepted my motion to reestablish chair status under my name. A rustle. A shift. Derek blinked, stunned. I turned another page. This house, recorded under the county assessor's office in 1989, is in my name. There is no lien. There will be no refinance. Shayla sat up straighter. What is this? I kept going. As for the trust, a third amendment has been filed, witnessed, and sealed. All assets revert to me. No disbursement will occur without my signature. Derek opened his mouth. Mercer stepped forward. He'd been waiting by the hallway, quiet, unnoticed. He spoke before Derek could. I'm James Mercer, attorney of record for Ms. Eastman. All filings have been processed. Originals are in this folder. Copies are with the board, the county, and the registrar of trusts. Gasps. Not dramatic ones. Just breath sucked in, like the oxygen had shifted in the room. I kept my eyes on Derek. His face collapsed in slow motion. Confusion first, then denial, then fear. You lied, he said weakly. No, I replied. You assumed. Shayla stood, knocked over her wine. You can't just, this isn't fair. I closed the folder. That's the thing I said. It's legal. Fair never mattered to either of you. The silence returned. Heavier this time. They saw me now. Not the housekeeper, not the checkbook, not the empty chair by the laundry room. Me. I turned to Mercer. Shall we? He nodded, and I walked past them as they stared. The door shut behind me. No slamming, no storming. Just a quiet click that sounded louder than anything they'd said all night. Inside, voices scrambled. Chairs scraped. Plates rattled. I didn't turn back. I walked to the porch, sat down, and waited. Mercer followed, minutes later, phone in hand. They called the bank, he said. Too late. I nodded. He sat beside me. Didn't speak for a while. Just let the quiet settle. Inside, the guests were leaving. Some hurried, some awkward. Most avoided eye contact. No one said goodbye. Shayla came out first. You can't do this, she said. Voice high, cracking. You can't just rewrite everything. We've made plans. I didn't answer. Mercer did. You signed nothing. You hold no ownership. This home isn't yours. The accounts aren't yours. And as of this morning, your credit line is frozen pending audit. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She looked back at the house as if Derek would step out and fix it. He didn't. He came out slower, face pale, phone pressed to his ear. No one's picking up, he muttered. The broker, the lawyer, gone. They pulled the contract. Said we misrepresented title. Mom, what did you do? I stood. Corrected a mistake, I said. His hand dropped. We needed that money. I shrugged. You spent what wasn't yours. That ends now. He blinked like he didn't understand the words, but he did. Mercer stood too. We'll be in touch about formal transitions, he said. But for now, I suggest you find alternate housing arrangements. Shayla stepped forward. You're putting us out. After everything, I looked her in the eye. After everything. She stared at me like she was trying to recognize my face for the first time. You were supposed to be old and grateful, she whispered. I stepped past her. Into the house. Into my house. Their voices didn't follow. Not anymore. I dropped the stack of envelopes on the table. Mercer had sent them overnight, one for each person living under my roof, though only two truly mattered. Derek's name, Shayla's name. Thick packets. Documented. Cross-checked. Notarized. I slid them across the table when they came downstairs. Read, I said. Shayla's fingers twitched as she tore hers open. Derek moved, slower, eyes already cautious, like he expected the ground to shift again. Paper rustled. Pages flipped. Then the room shifted, quiet, sharp, dangerous. You monitored my spending, Shayla stammered. No, I said. Mercer did. Legally, with cause. She scanned the first page, then the second. Her breath hitched. Personal charges under my card. Luxury items under household expenses. Transfers into a private account she thought I'd never discover. The cameras she installed with my funds. The emergency vet bill for a dog they never owned. The spa membership under my address. Then the big one. The attempted refinance paperwork listing her as a beneficiary without my consent. She tried to laugh. This is Exaggerated. Misinterpreted. You can't, this is just... It's dated, I said. Signed. Logged. Her voice cracked. Everyone manipulates accounts sometimes. It's not criminal. It is when you sign someone else's name. She froze. Derek's packet took longer. He read each page silently, jaw tightening. No excuses, no denial. Just a slow, sinking understanding of what he'd allowed and what he'd benefited from. Is this everything, he asked quietly? No, I said. But it's enough. He looked up at me, then not angry, just hollow. A boy who finally realized the adults in the room weren't who he thought they were. You knew, he asked. All this time I nodded. Why didn't you say anything? Because you wouldn't have listened, I said. Not until someone else held the mirror. Shayla slammed her folder shut. This is a setup. You two probably planned this. Some old people trick. Stop, Derek said sharply. She turned to him, stunned. He looked at her the way someone looks at a stranger in their own home. How much did you take? She hesitated. That was enough. The truth was already on the pages. You promised we'd build something, he said. You said helping you was temporary. You said. She grabbed his wrist. Don't turn this on me. We did this together. But he didn't squeeze back. He let her hand fall. I sat down at the table, folding my hands calmly. You manipulated him, I said. Every decision, every expense, every lie. You led him to believe I was the problem. She is no, he said again. Louder this time, staring at her. She swallowed hard. The room stilled. Then Derek lowered himself into the chair across from me. Mom? I didn't know, he said. I should have. But I didn't. I didn't nod. Didn't soften. Not yet. Shayla backed away from the table, eyes darting, cornered by truth more than consequence. You're throwing us out with paperwork, she whispered. No, I said. You did that yourselves. The silence stretched until it broke under the weight of everything unspoken. Finally, I pushed back my chair. There's more coming, I said. From the board, from the bank, from the auditor. Derek exhaled, defeated. Shayla's face paled. And I walked toward the front door, folder in hand, the house quiet behind me as their world began to collapse. I pulled the suitcase from the closet, snapped it open, folded clothes, laid them flat. No rush, no noise. Downstairs, the kitchen rattled with forced normalcy. Dishes clinked, chairs scraped, but no one laughed. No voices called my name. I packed the green folder first. Then my mother's photo, her handwriting, the key. The necklace returned from the pawn shop, now resting inside its velvet pouch. A reminder of what they took and what they never found. Shayla knocked once. I didn't answer. Please, she said from behind the door. Can we talk? I zipped the suitcase slowly, pulled my cardigan from the hanger, set it on top. Inez, I wasn't trying to. Her voice cracked. I just thought we could build something better. I was scared. We didn't have enough. Derek and I, silence. I walked to the door. My hand hovered over the knob. Then I turned and walked away. She knocked again. I let the sound die on its own. No drama, no lectures, no forgiveness ceremony, just a door. And silence. Downstairs, Derek didn't speak. I could hear the TV on low, something pointless, playing just to fill the space. He didn't come up. He didn't ask questions. Maybe for the first time he understood the cost of staying quiet too long. I packed my last pair of shoes. My mug. The one they said took up space. It still smelled faintly of dark roast. I smiled once, then wrapped it in a soft towel and slid it into my bag. I made my bed. Not for them. For me. I'd lived in this house long before Shayla. Before Derek grew tall enough to reach the sink. I'd paid off the mortgage with 2 jobs nights spent dozing on a couch between shifts. I'd buried my mother while Derek was away on spring break. I didn't owe this place noise, only closure. At dusk, I wheeled my suitcase to the top of the stairs. Shayla sat on the bottom step, hugging her knees. She looked up, startled. "You're leaving." I didn't stop walking. "You said this was your house," she said. "It is," I replied. Her voice turned sharp. "Then why are you the one walking out?" I reached the door. Because dignity doesn't slam. It walks, quiet, certain, free. And as I stepped out, I felt the air shift behind me. No more cameras, no more instructions, no more whispered plans behind bedroom walls. Just a quiet house, one that had forgotten how to speak. I closed the door. I taped the box shut. No ribbon, no card, no return address. Just a plain cardboard square holding what they once saw as profit. The necklace sat in a velvet pouch, sealed, untouched since the day the pawnshop returned it to me. The clasp still worked. The hinge still opened. The note inside, though, that was new. I folded the paper once, wrote only 7 words. "You sold the wrong thing." No signature, no explanation, no apology. I slipped it beneath the chain and closed the pouch. The delivery truck came just after noon. Same courier Derek used for his golf clubs last Christmas. Funny how fast they move when things have tracking numbers. I handed the box to the man. "Leave it at the door," I said. He didn't ask questions. I watched from the corner of the cafe across the street. Same window seat I used to bring Derek to when he was little. Back when he wore hand-me-down coats and scraped pennies for peanut brittle from the candy jar. I stirred my coffee slowly. No cream, no sugar. The sun cut across the pavement. Harsh, honest. Shayla opened the door first. Her robe hung loose hair unbrushed. She looked left, then right, picked up the box like it might explode, brought it in. The door shut. 10 minutes passed, then 20. No one came out. But I could imagine it. Her ripping the tape, peeling the flap back, pulling the velvet pouch out with 2 fingers, rolling her eyes before opening it, then finding the slip of paper, her face shifting, her mouth tightening, her fingers clenching. Because she thought she'd won. She thought she'd gotten away with it, that she'd erased me, pocketed the spoils, and rewritten the narrative. But what she sold wasn't just jewelry. It was memory, love, my mother's quiet protection, generations tucked inside a locket she never even knew could open. And now it was back in her hands, dead weight, useless without meaning. The cafe refilled my cup. I nodded, kept watching the house. Derek stood in the window. He didn't open it, didn't wave. He just stood there, a shadow behind the glass, a man who'd mistaken control for love, silence for strength, and a mother's exhaustion for weakness. The lawyer would finish the paperwork this week, the house title, the asset transfers, the board seats. All mine. I wouldn't be coming back, not even to collect the rest of my things. The bank account was already closed. My name removed from every utility, every card, every shared detail they once depended on. They'd have to learn how to manage without a silent servant. I finished my coffee, left cash on the table, walked out under the noon sun. My car waited at the corner, keys in hand, one mug in the back seat, the one they tried to throw out, the one I washed clean, the one that still fit in my palm like memory. I turned the engine. The house disappeared behind the trees. I poured the coffee, black, hot, no cream. Steam rose into the quiet. The ocean stretched wide before me, calm, certain, like it had never begged for anything. I sat on the porch, no one else in the chairs, no footsteps behind me, no orders, no sighs, no "Mom, can you?" Just breath. I lifted the mug. It was heavier than I remembered. Or maybe my hands were steadier now. Still here. That's what it said. I took a sip. No one called that morning. Not Derek. Not Shayla. Not anyone who once clung to me like I was furniture useful but unseen. I'd let them feel the silence they carved into me. let them sit in the echo. The house they'd tried to take was now in probate limbo. The lawyer handled the rest. I didn't need to explain a thing. The paper trail was clean, signed, dated, logged. The mug warmed my hands as the sun broke over the cliff. I'd bought this place with cash. No loans, no oversight. Just mine. A single-story home. Weathered, but strong. Like me. Inside, the photo of my mother sat on the mantel. I hadn't needed to ask her what to do. She'd told me long before she died. Don't let them forget who you are. I hadn't. They tried. Tried to scrub me down to utility. Tried to make my kindness a weakness. My silence a surrender. But I didn't disappear. I watched. I waited. And when it counted, I remembered everything. The waves hit the rocks below. No rush, just rhythm. I took another sip. The mug settled into my palm like it belonged there. And in that moment, I did too.